friends, welcome back to my channel. Welcome to another vlog. I think this is probably going to go for the weekend. It's supposed to be delightfully gloomy and rainy for the rest of the weekend, and I would like to spend it doing just the most relaxing activities I can think of. So I thought we could start off the vlog with a little bit of a book haul, library book haul. As I am wont to do, I tend to go to the library a lot every 2 weeks or so. I go with my mom, and then I will always be reserving books that I couldn't get from Libby or that I don't own or have access to any other way. Going to the library, not only is it so satisfying, it's like purchasing books without the monetary requirement, the monetary investment, but it also supports your local community and allows them to help people in your community in such beautiful ways. So I love going to the library. I love spending time in the library. I have been a big reader my whole life, and libraries were a big source of my reading and entertainment when I was a kid. We didn't have a lot of money, so I never really bought books, and my library was the biggest source of books for me. So all of that being said, support your library, your local library. Get a library card if you have one, if it's available to you. I know some countries don't do libraries, but if you have the option, get a library card, support your local community, and that's that. That's my little spiel on libraries. But let's just quickly do a little haul of all of the things that I have gotten recently. A lot of these are going to be classics, and we'll kind of get into that when we get to them, but I do have a couple of newer releases that I want to obviously get to. So to start things off, we have The Girl with All the Gifts. Now, I know that this is a post-apocalyptic sci-fi story, and I'm not the biggest fan of apocalypse stories, but this is a thriller, and I watched Allie from Allison Pages, I think that's her YouTube name. She read this a while ago, and she really, really liked it, and I would like to give it a shot. So I think this is about a girl trying to survive an apocalypse, and I think there might be zombies, and I've heard that it's just really different, and a lot of hope and triumph and tribulations. I'm excited to read this. I'll probably be reading this weekend, hopefully, and I would like to see how I feel about it. I then got Chain Gang All-Stars. This came out last year, I believe. It was on one of my lists of books to read, and I just never really got full access to it with the time to read it. But this says an explosive, hotly anticipated debut novel about two top women gladiators fighting for their freedom within a depraved private prison system, but not so far removed from America's own. So obviously this has to do with our prison system, racism, unchecked capitalism, mass incarceration. I have heard nothing but really, really good things about this. I believe it won a lot of awards the year that it came out, and I'm always excited to support new authors. So hopefully I like this, and I know it's going to be emotional. I know it's going to be good. I'm excited to get to it. We then have The Heart's Invisible Furies. This is another very popular release. I don't believe this is a debut author. This is the author of The Boy in the Striped Pajamas, which surely has its own issues and conversations around that, but I don't believe that this is about World War II. It says it's a sweeping, heartfelt saga about the course of one man's life, beginning and ending in post-war Ireland. In this transcendent work to date, we are shown the story of Ireland from the 1940s to today through the eyes of one ordinary man. It's a novel that sparks both laughter and tears while reminding us of all of the redemptive power of the human spirit. And if you've been on my channel for the past couple of weeks, I have been seeking out stories about humans' capacity for hope and love and change and revolution. And this, I hope, is going to be like a literary fiction extension of those fantasies that I have been seeking out. So I'm pretty excited for that one. And I'm going to say excited for every single one of these like I always do, and I'm so sorry for the repetitive language, but that is just who I am to my core. And then the last non-classic I got, I think, is something that I have actually never heard of, never heard anybody speak about, and that is Social Creature. This seems to be a thriller. I was really drawn in by the cover. It sort of reminds me of the Black Swan movie, so I'm quite interested to see how this goes. It seems to be an obsession novel between friends. It says a dark, propulsive, and addictive thriller splashed with all the glitz and glamour of New York City. A talented Mr. Ripley for the digital age, this seductive story takes a classic tale of obsession and makes it irresistibly new. I'm pretty excited to get to this one, as I said. I think of all of the ones that I got that aren't classics, these are the two that I'm most excited for, and so I probably am going to be starting with these this weekend and going to the last two. Then we have Berserk. Now this is a chunk-a-lunk of a manga collection. It is, I believe, the deluxe edition of the first 3 Berserk novels. I could be incorrect, but if you are not aware, Berserk is a manga series. It's an adult manga series. I don't know the entire plot or anything. I just know that Guts is a very interesting character, and I know that this is incredibly dark. But I want to give it a shot. I don't think I have the stomach for watching the anime, just based on things that I've heard right off the bat that happened, but I do think that I would be able to read the manga. So I got the Compendium Deluxe Edition, and I plan to do a 24-hour readathon situation with all of the unread manga that I have on my shelves, and I hope to read this as well. And then we have all of the classics that have accumulated recently from the library. I briefly spoke in another video that I was attempting to do a 100 classics challenge throughout the year. It's based on a Goodreads list that's like 100 books you should read. It's like 150 books, but it's 100 books that you should read before you die, sort of thing, or books you should read at least once or something. I have read about 50 of the ones on that list, and so there's about 100 that I am interested in reading that I haven't read yet or I intend to reread. And so I have been making the effort to pick up books on that list and also pick up more classics. I don't know, I've been in something of a classics mood recently. I'm not someone that watches classic booktubers. I don't even watch booktube in general, but I don't know, there's just something about reading a classic that has been really interesting to me. I think there's such a stigma around like romance and fantasy that comes generally from like the literary bros that only read classics and like very literary novels, that has always kind of tainted my opinion of an entire subset of books, which really sucks. And I kind of want to break that opinion. And I also think, like a lot of people, I hold the opinion that I'm not smart enough, that it's going to be too hard, that I don't have the vocabulary, that I'm not going to understand. But I want to be the sort of reader, and I think everybody is the sort of reader that can pick up any book at any time and give it a shot, as long as you have good intentions or meaningful intentions going into it. Just find new stories in different genres that I don't generally read, different types of stories than what I generally read, because I'm kind of just craving it. And so I've picked up a couple of books off that list, and also some things that I just have been wanting to read for a long time and never put the energy into. We have this collection of Jane Eyre and Wuthering Heights. Now, I didn't realize that this was a collection that I was reserving, but I'm kind of happy that it is, because I have read Wuthering Heights previously. I think I read it last year, and I wasn't the biggest fan. And so I want to give it another shot, and then obviously Jane Eyre I want to read. I think especially with like the Bronte sisters, Jane Austen, I want to read the authors that influence my reading on a daily basis, that influence the things that I read, the things that I watch, the media that I love. Obviously, these women have had huge impacts on the romance and women's quote-unquote fiction genre, which I don't read women's fiction, but I want to read the women that have had such big impacts, and these are just some of them. So I intend to read Jane Eyre and Wuthering Heights. Will I read this edition? We'll see how the reading experience is, but we have this. We then have a novels, stories, and poems collection of Charlotte Perkins Gilman. She wrote The Yellow Wallpaper, which I have read. It's an incredibly fascinating short story, poem, story situation that I'm very, very interested in revisiting. And I might pick up some of her other selected stories and poems that are part of this collection, but really I just got it for The Yellow Wallpaper, which I remember being very trippy is a word to describe it. So then we have another collection of Edith Wharton's books. And I got this because I am interested in reading Ethan Frome. I also decided to get Great Expectations. Jesus, someone just came to my door and like slammed on my door. It scared the shit out of me. So I will be reading Great Expectations eventually. Then, of course, I had to pick up Giovanni's Room by James Baldwin. I had a couple of other novels by James Baldwin that I didn't have the opportunity to get to before I had to return them to my library. So I am excited to start with his penultimate novel. This is the novel that I think most people really love and really adore, and he's kind of quite well known for. Of course, I took the opportunity to pick up Little Women. This is the children's edition, which I just think is so adorable. So intrigued by this story. This is another story that I have tried to read previously, and I was reading it via audio and it just wasn't gripping my attention at the time, but I want to read this and then watch the movies and watch the adaptations. So this is going to be quite an adventure for me, and I'm pretty excited. All right, 2 more, and then this ridiculously long intro will be over, and we'll actually get into the rest of the vlog. But next up, we have Slaughterhouse 5. I feel like I have to read a Kurt Vonnegut if I want to say that I'm getting into classics, much more of a modern classic author, but regardless, this deals really heavily with the ramifications of war, and I know that this is not a very easy novel to read, not only for the subject matter, but the writing style. And then the last one, and the one that I'm probably going to be starting with because I'm so incredibly interested in it, it is Perfume, the Story of Murder. It says it's set in the slums of 18th century Paris, and I believe the main character is a serial killer or a murderer, and he becomes a perfumer, something along those lines. I'm fascinated by this premise. I'm fascinated by this story and where it's going to go, and I'm incredibly excited to get to it. So that is all of the books that I have gotten from the library recently. I think we will start our reading adventure with Social Creature. I'm just so fascinated by this and this premise. So I will probably get comfy. I do need to edit a video and get that all ready to post. But other than that, I'm getting into reading for the rest of the weekend. So I will definitely talk to you guys later. Okay, I'm not someone that generally is going to give you a grocery haul. If you're curious, this is what I usually get. I wanted to talk about some things that have made our life so much better. So if you didn't know, my partner and I are vegetarian, and there's a couple of plant-based foods that are cheap, meats that are cheap and that actually taste good that I wanted to put you guys on. So if you're also plant-based, or you're just trying to cut out the amount of meats you eat, whatever. Here's some good options. So first up, these are great if you are someone that likes burgers. These taste exactly like the real thing. 14 grams of protein. They're fantastic. You can microwave them, put them in your air fryer, put them in a skillet. So many options. We do burgers like once to twice a week, and we really love it. These are pretty decent chicken tenders. I use these for our katsu ramen recipe, and they taste pretty okay. I would say they taste more like tofurkey fake meat than any of our other options, but we do eat those occasionally. And then here is our bread and butter. So first up, these corn dogs. I have always been a corn dog fan, but I do not like the real thing. So I have been searching for years, and these are so freaking good. They, again, can go in the microwave. You can make them in the oven, air fryer, whatever. They're so good. I always get at least 2 boxes because we're big fans. And then we also have their breakfast protein. So this is their sausage links. Use and eat the sausage patties. And these are great if you want to make like waffles and sausage, like a breakfast situation. And then these are also great if you are looking for a meatball option. I prefer to eat meals with protein in every meal, and these are really good with like a pasta dish, or if you're like meatball sub or spaghetti and meatballs, that kind of thing. They're fantastic. I also forgot to mention these plant-based hot dogs. Very good. Slather them in queso, and they taste like the real thing. So good. So I am a little over halfway through Social Creature. I wouldn't say it's necessarily a chore and or takes very long because it's only like 280 pages, something like that. So I'm on 150. This is fine. It's fine. It's a little weird. It's following a woman who befriends a very rich socialite in New York. The main character is trying to become a writer, becomes obsessed with becoming Lavinia. I think her name is like Louise or something like that. And they're both kind of obsessed with each other. And there's a lot to do with like parties, drugs, social media, stuff like that, obsession with image, how you come off to other people. And Louise is incredibly insecure. She has problems with her body and eating and perception of her, and she feels like Lavinia is the perfect woman. Lavinia kind of holds her hostage in a way. She kind of takes over her life, guilt trips her and manipulates her, and Louise is also equally manipulating her in her own ways. Louise kills Lavinia. I don't think that's a spoiler necessarily. It says in the thing, Lavinia will never know, she's gonna die soon. So it's okay. The writing is interesting, the writing's weird. It's like a mix of breaking the fourth wall and third person narrative. It hops all over the place. It's by no means hard to read, but it's not like the most mind-blowing great experience that I've ever had. And it's not gonna scrape like a 3-star, just based on where we're at now. We'll see how the last half goes, but now that she's like killed her, I'm interested to see how the story progresses. Is she just gonna like completely take over her identity? What's gonna happen? I don't know, but I'm here for it. I want to read it and finish it. And okay, so we finished this and I didn't really like this. Beginning portion was interesting. Then we got to like the 50 to 60% mark. Good. Interesting. Watching her like de-evolution after committing this murder was fascinating to read. And then it just went on a little too long. After like the 70% mark, and we had like 30 different interactions with characters where she's trying to like deal with the aftermath, was just a little much. Like we had a ton of her like going to parties and stuff, independent of like living her own life, and then trying to deal with the aftermath, and there was like her family and all that. It just was a little too long, which is like weird to say because it was only like 280 pages. We're gonna move on to the next thing. I think I do want to play some Marvel Rivals. I finally got, there's like this thing that you can get in the game where if you play enough hours and do certain challenges on a character, you can get like an alternative little play card for them. And I've been trying to get it on all the characters that I play, and I got one for this one character that I was grinding for a while, and now I need to start a new character. I don't know if I want to do that today or not, or if I want to play some Sims, or what I want to do, but I do know that I want to take a little bit of a reading break, maybe for a couple of hours, do something else, and then we'll start our next book. I'm probably going to read The Girl with All the Gifts, or whatever it's called, for the rest of the weekend, because I do know that one is quite long. I'm gonna go back to my business, doing my stuff, and we'll talk later. Okay, it is much later. It is 5:30 now. I, as you saw, am going through the process of getting rid of all lighting in our house aside from candles and like small lamps. I hate the big light, capital B, capital L. Not a big fan of them. They give me headaches after a while, and they're just so, I just don't like them. I much prefer candles, and so I'm getting real candles, fake candles, candle holders. I'm in the process. And I just find myself just way more relaxed and more cozy with them available. And as it gets hotter, I'm gonna have to keep the blinds closed and all that kind of stuff, so it just makes lack of light that much better, you know? Like, instead of being emo about the fact that I can't get sunlight because it's too hot where I live. Regardless, tangent aside, I am 120 pages into The Girl with All the Gifts, and I'm fascinated by this. I'm not someone that tends to like zombie stories, and at its heart, it is a zombie story. So we're following multiple points of view in this novel, but mainly we're following Melanie, who is, we think, a young girl, and she is being kept in an underground prison that follows the regimen of like an orphanage slash school. Their movements are restricted. Anytime they're allowed to leave their cell, they are strapped down to chairs, and they really don't go many places. They only eat once a week. They're fed grubs. They shower once a week in this weird, like, in a septic mist thing. They go to school. They have like tutors and teachers and stuff, and they have very minimal interaction between themselves. And occasionally children will show up and children will disappear. And following her point of view, we find a very highly intelligent child that is kind of chafing against the restrictions that she's under. She doesn't remember a life prior to this, but she's assuming that she had one at one point. And then we also get a couple of other points of view that are related or connected to the young girl. Follow the point of view of a teacher who has formed a connection to her. We follow a doctor who is conducting experiments on the children, and we also follow a security guard guy who is trying to deal with some things that are going on the outside in addition to like taking care of the children. So basically, there is a worldwide event that happened that zombies were created via these like fungus spores that mutated. They were previously only found in ants, and then they mutated, and now they have infected the human population. And the people that have been infected, the zombies, are called hungries, and they are running rampant. Don't function unless they smell or hear a human in their vicinity. They don't like move or do anything unless they're hunting. However, these children that they're experimenting on are hungries who have intelligence, and they're trying to find out where that immunity comes from. Like, they're still responsive to the smell of flesh and all that, but they're not the typical hungry. Where I left off 100 pages in, this is a 400-page novel, so this beginning portion was by no means the whole of the story, obviously. Obviously the plot is going to progress beyond that. We have seen our underground facility, our military base, attacked by hordes of hungries, and also these people called junkers, who are people that live outside of the military control and basically scavenge and all of that. People that have gone out on their own and like don't follow regulations and rules and stuff. And so they have seen themselves attacked by these scavengers who are using the hungries to attack the military base. And we have like several of the points of view going through that experience. So where I left off, we're still in the midst of that. We still have a ton of questions. We're still really not sure what's going on with like Melanie and stuff, but I imagine her plot line is just starting. So we are gonna get back into it. I'm probably just going to be reading for a couple of more hours, and then when my partner gets home, we'll do our nighttime stuff, dinner, watch TV together, go to bed, all that stuff, and then we'll pick up tomorrow. But I'm really liking it. I can see this capturing people's attention, especially the conversations around like sentience and humanity and purpose. So okay, friends, it is Sunday, so it's time to wrap up what I've read, move on with my day. So I got 200 pages into The Girl with All the Gifts. I wouldn't necessarily say that this is what I anticipated it to be. I am not a big zombie book fan, like I mentioned previously, but I was anticipating this to be a little bit different of a story than I was expecting, just like a bog standard zombie story. Up until this point, it's been pretty bog standard. Now, there is a little bit of variation with the like zombie anatomy and how it all came to be and all of that, but I would say the action, the travel, the state of the world, all of that is very similar, and I'm still interested in it, but it's not quite as gripping as I want it to be. So I do intend to finish this, but it's not quite as like good as I was hoping that it would be. That being said, I do have a ton of stuff around the house and stuff prepped for next week that I need to do. I need to edit this video and get it ready for you guys. So I think I'm going to end the video here. I hope you consider subscribing if you are looking for more videos from me. Check out my backlist. I have quite a varied type of video. You could pretty much find anything that you would like there, so check that out. Let's talk it down in the comments how your week went, what you're reading, what you're watching. I would love to know. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys in my next one.